Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right, welcome back. We're East Coast Adventures with the Dirt and Vert podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we have special guest today, Micah Morgan. Micah's been running for a few years now, but still fairly new. But one of the interesting things about Micah is that he has now kind of helped with East Coast Adventures. You've probably seen him a little bit on the Dirt and Vert page. He is kind of taking some of that over for us, and you'll see a little bit more of Micah over the next few years as we use him some to help us with these races. So, Micah, if you don't care, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into running.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys, for having me here. So my journey kind of really began in February of 2021. Found myself about 350 pounds with a 10-month-old daughter, and decided I needed to make a change. So between February of 2021 to about October of 2021, I went on a weight loss journey, and about October of that year, kind of really started to plateau. I had lost about 90 pounds at that point. I'd really accomplished a lot of my goals in terms of weight loss. Stayed pretty steady in the gym every day, working out, was really diligent with that. But just kind of hit a plateau. Didn't really feel connected to any real community. Definitely didn't connect with gym culture, anything like that. So wasn't really too in tune with trying to continue in on the weightlifting, strength training side of things. So kind of plateaued a little bit. And I don't know. I just kind of 2021 was kind of the year. It was kind of still COVID. So a lot of races that typically were spring races had kind of floated to the fall. And it was about that time that the Knoxville Marathon was having their series of races. So it was Wednesday before the Saturday race. And I had saw that the races were still open for registration. And I hadn't registered yet. Hadn't done anything yet. Hadn't really had a plan to run. Just signed up for a 5K. And that day, went and jumped on a treadmill. First treadmill run probably. Ran 3 miles to say that I could do it. And then that Saturday showed up. My first run. Growing up, I participated in a variety of sports, from swimming to marksmanship, shooting pellet guns, pellet pistols, and high rifles. So a lot of running involved in those sports. So in college, I played a little bit of rugby, but even at that time was on the heavier side. So we don't do a whole lot of position I played doesn't do a whole lot of running for that position. So hadn't really had any experience with running in any capacity with anything I had done prior. So that Saturday morning, 5K, showed up with my daughter in a stroller. And it was kind of a moment of being reborn with her. There was something magical about that day. It was a very difficult run, as you can imagine. 30:15, I think, is what my time was for a 5K. Pushed my daughter the whole time in the stroller. Finished it, kind of fell down and was like, okay, this is hard. I want more of this. So from there, I signed up for a half marathon that was supposed to be ran that following February. Mixed in a little bit of 5Ks and 5Ks leading up to that half marathon. Ran that half marathon February of 2022 down in Greenville, South Carolina, and finished it and hurt. Everything hurt. It's probably a good thing that it was on the day that it was. It was on a Sunday or a Saturday. I can't quite remember, but I remember finishing that and feeling, kind of elated. It was kind of one of those magical moments of just like, I told my sister, I was like, I want to get a tattoo of the race logo on this race day. And obviously you call a tattoo shop on Saturday afternoon, they're not likely going to let you get a tattoo. So it's probably a good thing. I had since then had a lot more aspirations with running than that half marathon, but it was a good start. It was a great start for me. So ended up, I think back on it, leading up to the day before or the week before the half marathon. I think the biggest motivator for me was when somebody, aka my boss, the guy that owns our company, told me that he didn't think I could do it under 2 hours. And that was a big motivator for me because, of course, I had to prove him wrong. So, of course, I went out there and did it in 2 hours, and just accomplished what I wanted to accomplish and felt great doing it. And so that was February of 22. And kind of everything went downhill or uphill from there, depending on how you look at it. February 22, I ran that. And then following that race, the first trail run I ever did was Big Ridge with Knoxville Trail Series. And that was my first time ever on trails, and that is a very hilly course.
How many miles
Uh,
is that?
it's an 11 miler.
Okay.
And it's about 2,500 feet of vert over those 11 miles. So,
That is pretty good.
with a really big death climb. And that was my first day ever out on trails, was that trail race. And, I, did I say pretty decent. I felt like when I accomplished it, I felt like, okay, I can really improve it this time. I can really do this trail thing. So, I went from there. I did that one, and then, the half marathons and those kind of things dropped off. The 5Ks dropped off, and I was sold on trails. Uh, I think after the half marathon, I don't think I've ever done another road race since then. So I was all on trails. I kind of came alive on the trail. So I did that, and then I did the next one I did, if I can remember right. I did a bunch of Knoxville Trail Series races, but the next one that was really um, pivotal for me was when we went out to Northern Boundary that same year. Just a month or so later. I think it was in March or April. I think it's the March. I think the Whitestone that year was in February. So they've moved them around a little bit, but it was shortly after Big Ridge that I did Northern Boundary, and that's a 14 miler. They say it's half marathon, whatever. It's 14 plus miles. And was running out there, and I ran into Melinda Honkus, who we all know, we all love Melinda Honkus. And she's kind of really was the person that was really intricate in introducing me to East Coast Adventures, which has been a very key contributor to my journey and my progress in the sport, in my community. So I ran that one, and then was quickly encouraged by her to run longer and to run more. So I had signed up for Three Sisters and ended up going out Three Sisters and met an idiot who was running in sandals. I think his name was David Compton. He's out there playing around, running around in sandals, and met Matt out there and Mike and met you all guys that day, and the rest is history really in terms of our relationship and our community. So it's pretty magical. So had a really great day at Three Sisters, ran a 50 there, 6 hours, and then from there, which was I've only been running for a couple of years now, so that was in May of 2022. I have since then did a sporadic amount of anywhere from probably primarily around that 50K mark, not really pushing myself beyond that limit. I have September of 22, I ran a race out in Abington, Virginia called Iron Mountain. There's 30 mile, 40 mile, 50 mile option. And it's 30 miles. It's about 6,000 to 7,000 feet of vert. So September 22, I ran out there, and it really wrecked me. But it kind of really drove me to come back and best it. So 2023, a lot of my goals were so focused around Three Sister, or focused around going back to Iron Mountain. A low frills course. I mean, the they don't do metals, they do breads. Like you literally get a loaf of bread at the end of the race. Like
Hmm.
very, very old school race. And I really love it. Really love that area. That was in September of Labor Day weekend of 2022.
Well,
Um, lead,
you said it wrecked you. Well, how did it wreck you?
the vert, you
Mm.
know, the vert, it really, I mean, every race to a certain extent wrecks me if, you know, if I really give it what I
Yeah,
want to give it.
That's true.
true.
Well,
Give it my all. But it really emptied me and it really kind of gave me this sense of I want to come back and I want to experience this again. So I had a time of, just to give reference to it, I had a time of 30 miler 5:45. So, you know, really quite a bit of vert. And so 2023 rolls through. My goal for 2023 was this all ties into this story ultimately. So hang in there, you guys. 2020,
you're good.
2023 rolls through and I, decided to hire a coach. This coach is no longer my coach. I am coached by Mary Cates with Unrunning. So this was before her and my experience working with her. And you guys both know her very well. So, she's great. She's wonderful. But before my experience working with Mary, I was working with somebody else. And leading up to um, Iron Mountain, Iron Mountain was the goal race. You know, I was going out there to really kill Iron Mountain. And I had run Gone Loco, Fort Frenzy. I don't know if 23 I ran Fort Frenzy. Yeah, I did. I did run
Yeah.
Fort Frenzy.
Mhm.
I did a shorter version just preparing for it. And got to Iron Mountain and honestly just had a really bad day. My legs were shot. My first climb, my legs wouldn't move over. Just had a really rough day. It was, I remember it very, very vividly because it's a 30-mile course and you have opportunities to drop at 9 and 16, 22 or 9, 16, 22 and like 27, right? So you have two aid stations. So 9, 16, and 22 essentially. Those three opportunities. Leading up to every aid station I wanted to quit. Every one. My legs weren't moving. I was way off pace for what I wanted to accomplish. Everything hurt. And I couldn't move the way I knew I was training to move. I had spent 6 months training for this race. I come in with all these goals and, it was one of those things where did not get the result that I wanted. Ended up going in and getting about 6 to 30 minutes off. And that was the first race kind of in my journey where that I didn't have continuous improvement over time, where I go
Mhm.
race it one year and come back the next year and do better. It was the first race that I had a setback and, um, was really proud of myself for sticking it out and finishing the damn thing. I had a lot of opportunities to quit in that race, but, just didn't get the result that I wanted to. So finished it Saturday. And Sunday I was pissed off. I mean, I was just
Mhm.
angry. I spent a lot of time and energy, in this race and, was upset with my progress at that point. So the previous year I had raced dirt circuit, um, and it was a Dirty Bird event back in 2022. And they had talked to me. They're a group that I volunteer quite a bit with over the last few years, volunteering with their races. Historically, I have typically volunteered with races before actually racing races to kind of figure out the community in terms
Mhm.
of where I want to invest my time and my energy. So, great group. Dirty Bird events. They do a
Yeah.
lot of good stuff and really enjoy. I still volunteer for them every year, the races that they do locally here. So, but I knew that they wanted to give up dirt circuit. And so, I wanted to run that last event. And, we were lucky that David Compton showed up and I was able to make that introduction. Because then now it's the East Coast race and it's a great race. I really, really enjoyed it. And I kind of came out there. It was a 12-hour race in 2022 and I didn't have many goals, really anything to accomplish. I just, kind of went into it. We'll see what happens. And, um, got 40 miles up. It was a PR at that point, um, in September of 22 and just had, come off of a really good race at Iron Mountain just previously in 22. And so kind of felt like I'm pretty comfortable just having a good time. I got, free race entry or whatever, so wasn't really too invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I quit. About 40 miles in, I quit and just started having a good time. Somebody didn't ever let me forget that. David was on me pretty hard for that one because left a lot out there. So fast forward to after Iron Mountain in 23, really broken down. I just decided, what, screw it all, screw the short stuff. Let's really see. Let me see if I can empty this tank. Let me see what I can do. So I hadn't really experienced anything more than 40 miles at that point. Didn't know what it felt like to run more than 40 miles. So on a whim, no training, had just fired my coach, decided to do dirt circuit 23. Went out dirt circuit, and didn't have any goals. I made the mistake of telling a few people that my goal was to be out there at the 24-hour mark. And unfortunately, I preach accountability and they preach it right back to me. So needless to say, I was out there past the 24-hour mark. I finished what I started, which was the goal, and had some really great support, learned a lot from that race. I can't say that I was disappointed in my result because I did exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to experience what it was like to be on my feet for 24 hours. I did 24 hours. I did right under 93 miles. Walked the majority of the back 30 of the course. Had some great support. East Coast, obviously, great support. Thomas Booker, who's just phenomenal. There's a lot of really good people in this community. Thomas Booker is one of the really, really good ones. He was so supportive. And if there is anybody that I want to have on the trail to experience that for the first time, that has the knowledge and has the wisdom and has the patience and the kindness to get you through a difficult time, it was a damn good choice. And forever grateful for him for really giving me that experience. And so, at the beginning of my journey, I don't think I would ever have thought that I wanted to do a 100-miler this soon. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old this year. They're both turning 4 and 2 this year, so I should say. So my goals have always been to kind of wait and see until they get a little bit older before I really explore the longer distances because of time commitment, training, and whatnot. But dirt circuit kind of opened me up to shit. I want to do this. This is something I want to accomplish. And so everything that I've done kind of since that experience has kind of really pushed me into completing a 100-miler this year. Everything that's going on 2024 is buckle year for me. It's the only thing I have on my agenda. So, and I've done a couple races since then. I going into the winter a month, we did Barn Creek. You guys put on Barn Creek, which was a great race. And I thought I experienced an injury during that race. And we'll talk a little bit later on, I guess, a little bit about Mike's. I'm sure we're going to have a conversation regarding running 100 miles and your relationship with pain. I will certainly talk about that. But that's a continual life lesson. Being comfortable with pain and uncomfort and realizing that that's part of the journey.
Absolutely.
Sorry, long-winded there. I told you it was going to be a little long-winded there, that journey.
So I want to go all the way back to, and you were coming out of COVID, you were 350 pounds. Is that correct?
Yeah, about yeah. That's when I started counting.
Fix my cord here. Sorry. So was that the heaviest you had been?
Yeah. So
your daughter ignited you in a way to get healthy?
She woke me up.
And you hadn't really run any before then?
No, I think
so you just like signed up for a 5K. You walk out on a treadmill and like, let's test this. And you run a 5K.
Yeah. So, we'll talk about my why later in more detail, but the way I do things is all or nothing. And people ask me, well, why don't you just run casually? And the response is, well, if I'm not training for a goal and I'm not working towards improvement and I'm not working towards bettering myself, I'm going to go right back to being 350 pounds again. There's no middle ground. It's all or it's nothing. And so, I just jumped right in, man. in a lot of ways, I am really, really grateful that I did not find running at 350 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity and the ability to lose the weight first
Yeah.
before I started on the journey, just because of the damage and I see it and people, lose motivation and they stop. And I'm really grateful that I was able to find it in my journey when I did. It was just kind of serendipitous in that way.
Well, there's like two paths that we can all take, and that's that one day that we're talking about we're going to do something, or today, day one, and like you did that. You jumped in and you're like, it's time, and you kind of found your passion, which I can say wholeheartedly that I'm kind of the same way as you are. When I started like road running, I was like, I've done several half marathons, but I didn't really find the true passion of running until I got on a trail. And then I got to run in a community of trail runners and I got to experience that. And you just start meeting some amazing people, and nothing against like road runners. There's some pretty amazing road runners, but I didn't feel like it clicked with me until I was out on those trails running with those guys, and those girls. And from there, that community's formed, and we're so thankful that we found you. And like Melinda, you were talking about Melinda and Thomas. They've been with us from the very start. Like Melinda's a lot of the reasons that we've got some of the distances and stuff that we have in our races, because she tries to make sure Gary runs, and we put those distances in there for him. But we even helped crew her for her Boston Marathon that one year of COVID. They didn't do it. And I think that's where we first like really got to hang out with you, Micah, was when we did the 1776 virtual run there.
Yeah.
And first one for sure.
Yeah, and that was cool and fun. So you just keep meeting amazing people, and there's not a better person in this world than Thomas Booker. Like, if I could be on a trail and be in a problem or just wanted someone to talk to, like Thomas Booker is the man. Like, he is the nicest person you'll ever meet on or off a trail. He's just awesome. But kudos to you. Like, you've came a long way in a short amount of time. And I just remember me and Matt, when we were running, I don't know if we ever told you this story or not, but we were running. And, at one point, me and Matt were just like flying, and we were like, we're going to roll. And we come around and we're getting close to 17 miles, and we sat down, and here comes Micah.
Yep.
And he's like right behind us and sits down, and we're like, me and Matt looks at each other, and we're like, damn, he's pretty fast.
Pretty fast for a big guy.
Yeah, I was like, he's fast.
And then we got the story of when we came up, grabbed our stuff, and went out. Who was it? Who was up there? Was it Gary? Was Gary done? And he said he came in here, and Micah's like, "Are they already gone?" And and then he grabbed your stuff, and you took off too. Like, you didn't sit around and wait. You got your stuff and sent it.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of competitiveness in Micah.
There is.
So let's take a step back here. Your very first like long trail run, would you consider that like Three Sisters, or would you consider that Iron Mountain? Like, which one do you consider, or would you consider it Dirt Circuit?
So Three Sisters obviously was my first ultra.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first ultra. I definitely had my fair amount of struggles and demons in that race. At that point, Three Sisters was May of 22. I had the farthest I had run, I think was 14 miles. I think it was northern boundary at that point. So there was a lot of unknowns going into that race. And so it was the old course. It was a good 3-mile loop at that point. So that was a good course. I had a good time out there. I really enjoyed that race. It was unfortunate last year I wasn't able to attend. I had some other stuff that came up, but I always loved Three Sisters. Always will continue to support that race as much as possible. Yeah, the thing about Iron Mountain is Iron Mountain has always been kind of in my very short period of time, has always been kind of the race that I always feel that I can go back to. And it's something about, being up there. You guys have raced up on that Creeper Trail. I don't know if you guys have gotten up in those mountains, but think about
Mm-mm.
the Creeper Trail. It's Creeper Trail. The whole area is like on steroids. You run up on the AT, you run part of the AT course, and it's another animal up there. Just lots of climbing. The thing about it is you start so fast. You start that Iron Mountain. You start the first 4 miles are all flat Creeper Trail. And so you have a tendency to go out way too fast, and then you just climb. And from mile 4 to mile 7, you gain about 3,500 feet of vert.
Mm.
Ooh.
Just so you're booking 7-minute miles. You hit that, and then you're climbing. And if you don't have climbing legs, you're done. And if your legs aren't turning over like they should be, um, and I had made some mistakes. I had obviously made some mistakes leading to that race. Lord willing, I'll be back there this year. I'm going to knock that thing down again. I'm just going to keep going until I feel like I can accomplish it. It's just a good race. I love those old school style races. Literally fresh baked goods at the finish line. Um, but yeah, I would say, definitely, I would say Three Sisters was definitely my first ultra.
What do you think you learned the most from that race?
Iron Mountain.
Three Sisters. Like it being
Oh,
your
oh,
first one. What do you think you learned the
I
most
don't,
from it?
I don't think I really learned anything or more than it just kind of really wet my whistle to be like, oh shit, I like this. I like feeling like I did something.
Yeah.
It was hard. I wanted to quit, but I didn't. I don't believe there's anybody, whether you're racing the 5K or you're racing the 100 mile or you're racing the two. There's not a single person that starts a run that doesn't at some point in the run says, I don't really want to do this shit anymore. I want to quit. And it's that the longer you're out there, the more opportunities you have to quit, and the more times you have to deal with that challenge. And so that's what as. So there's something special about a 50K. And there's something special with a 50 mile, and there's something special with a 100 mile. They're all so unique and different. And every race, based on the structure of it, is so unique and different with different challenges. You cannot be an ultra runner in this environment today and not find something that will challenge you and motivates you and throw a wrench in your plans, regardless of the distance. So I'm not one that says that, 100 miler is what you got to do in order to be successful in the sport. I don't believe that. I think you can be just as successful in the sport running 50Ks and only running 50Ks. I think honestly, there are plenty of athletes and even professional athletes where all they run is the 10K. And they'll spend their entire career perfecting the 10K, and they'll be fully sponsored athletes, and all that they do is run the 10K every time. And you can always be improving on yourself, regardless of the distance that you choose. But every distance holds its own mystery and holds its own experience. Um, so yeah, I don't know if that really answered your question or not.
It did, but now we're gonna jump it up a little bit. So we come all the way forward to the second dirt circuit, which you did the 24 hours, and like you said, you told several people that your goal was to be on your feet moving at hour 24. Like keep to see what you had. And you did that. And you finished with almost 93 miles, 92 and some change. So super close to that 100-mile mark, but not too
My
far
watch
off.
says something different, but we're not going to talk about that right
We can't help all the trips you made.
now.
Well, hey, if you made a trip to those bathrooms at that race, you probably got it every time.
But you finished third overall. So that was the race that, there for a while, you and Casey y'all were kind of going back and forth, and you were right there in the race, and you were in the race the whole time. But there at the knot, you kind of slowed down. You had foot problems. And my question is like, at what point did you realize like, oh shit, like this is getting really hard? Because I could see on your face that you had not kind of experienced this level yet, and
No, of
you were
course
kind of
not.
like, yeah, and you were working through foot problems and other things, but you kept moving. But like, what was going through your mind? Like, how are you trying to deal with that?
Yeah, so there's multiple things to that. One is I put myself in a position to have the support I needed to really experience something new in a really supportive environment. I was lucky enough to have somebody like Thomas out there with me for the nighttime, to really, learn some lessons. Learn so that of all the races I've done, Dirt Circuit will always have a special place because of the lessons I learned and the mistakes that I made. You guys have talked about it multiple times since Dirt Circuit and with multiple of your guests about the difference between running and walking. And, if you run, in a lot of ways, it's a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's so much to be said for the power of what you tell yourself. I remember Dirt Circuit, I kept telling myself the whole day, get to the night, 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 get to the night. If I can get to the night and I can get with Thomas, then we can just walk this thing out. And that was my biggest mistake, because I allowed myself to go into that place of I can just walk this thing out.
Yeah.
Because then it gave myself permission to walk it out. And also at that time I had not experienced this sport, these adventures. They will always have a level of pain and discomfort to them. Always. Yeah. Whether you're the front of the pack or the back of the pack, middle of the pack, does not matter. You will be in pain. You will be in discomfort. And your relationship to your pain is the most critical thing that you have to learn from continually. And you have to have a positive relationship with your pain, because if you don't, if you fight with your pain and you allow your pain to control what you do, then you will allow yourself to do things like walk it out. And I'm not talking about injury. I'm talking about just pain, muscle pain, blisters, whatever it may be. There's a million excuses of just stopping or walking it out or whatnot. So there's just so many lessons through Dirt Circuit that I've learned that I've had to kind of wrestle with. And it's not a okay, I did Dirt Circuit, so I learned now I just have to suck up pain. Like, I had experience with Gone Loco where I was in my head about, I really didn't want to race at Gone Loco. I'm super competitive. So I got out there and I didn't want to run fast. And I was pissed off because I didn't want to be there, and you just have to kind of and I had a bunch of discomfort, and luckily I had a really good conversation while running with Dusty, and Dusty was talking about a trick or two to get his time down, and I just was kind of real honest with him. I said, I think the issue's in our head. I think we have to get our head right and be honest with ourselves. And if we can get our head right and get our minds where we need them to be, where it needs to be, and stop making damn excuses and just do what we need to do, our time's going to improve regardless, right? I don't need to put in a trick here and a trick there. I just need to really, get my brain right, get my head straight. What am I trying to do? And I started Gone Loco. So first 7 miles in, I was already having this pain in my hip, and I was sick and tired of running in pain. It was just like, you know what? I just suck it up and just got to do it. And so I just did it and didn't complain about it and didn't mention it again. I just did it. And so that was a learning experience for me. And, you and me have had a conversation since then where, you were asking me about what I was thinking about going into my 100-miler. And that's the biggest thing for me, is just really coming to grips with the reality of that I'm just going to be in pain. And the beauty of a 100-miler is that you're going to have up and downs the entire time. And it's like, I was talking to Mary today, and it's like, you're like literally living a lifetime in 24 hours. Just get knocked down, get back up again. Get knocked down, get back up again. Keep moving forward, keep progressing, keep, problem solving, keep moving. It's a magical thing. It might suck to run a 5K, but it sucks for 20 minutes. You might be out there for 24 hours of suck. So it's a journey for sure. It's a journey.
Well, and there's a lot of truth to what you tell yourself.
Yeah.
I hope that that's a lesson that, everybody gets to experience at some point, because you don't really get to experience that if you stop. You don't really feel that satisfaction the next day or the next week until you've gone through that, and that's the thing that I think just really changes you to, it's one of those where it brings you to another level of a pain threshold, and not even a pain threshold, but also mentally knowing that you can handle more.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that is like just so rewarding. That in itself, like it doesn't matter if it's a 3-hour race or a 24-hour race. If the longest you've ever ran is 3 hours and you go out and do a 6, 12, or 24-hour race and you can't feel like you can't finish and you're telling yourself to quit, and you hang in there and you fight through this and you walk or you do whatever to finish, sometimes just moving forward and doing that is the most important thing, because you break that mental barrier that you've told yourself. And every time you do that, you increase that level.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, is like when Micah goes to do this 100-miler, we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Like I've already heard him say, walking, I told myself if I could get here, I could walk. And, a lot of us do that. We're just like, if we're in pain and we're suffering and, like our day did not go as planned. I mean, shit, that happens 90% of the races, guys. Yeah. Like I walk in with big goals to every race, and about sometimes 3 miles in, sometimes 3 hours in, things change. And sometimes you just have to accept the day, but also don't settle, because 3 hours from now, you're going to feel completely different than you do right now. And that's the thing, is like you were telling yourself that all day. So it became your goal.
Yeah.
Survive the night, survive the night. And then you did exactly what you did, and you finished and you went 90 plus miles, and that's huge. But you had more in the tank. You definitely had more in the tank, but you didn't know that.
Yeah, I'll be the first to tell you that. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you that. I mean, going into it, my concern was not being there at 24. My concern was not being able to know, not knowing that I could run for 24 hours, because I hadn't even come close to that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
prior to that, the longest I had run was probably 7 or 8 hours at dirt circuit the previous year. I had zero 100-mile training coming into to dirt circuit 23, and so I didn't allow myself the what if question, right? Like, what if? So it was just, for me, it was just, I'm here to literally survive, get through the night without falling asleep, kind of a thing. So I didn't allow myself to really think about, now I know that I'm at least capable of surviving the night.
Yeah.
And going into the next one, I've kind of accomplished that. I've kind of leveled up in that way. So now, I've got bigger goals. I've got bigger things I want to accomplish. And a lot goes into picking your first 100-miler. A lot goes into your planning for that and your training for that and gear and all that. We're going to talk about all that at some point tonight, but but it's kind of really unlocked, and obviously I don't want to pull a mat and start running 7-minute miles for the first 20 miles or nothing crazy, but definitely want to be reasonable in terms of my ability, but I'm 100% confident in my ability to go out there and continue to run and keep moving forward regardless of the pain that I'm in. But with all that being said, I am fully aware that regardless of my training, regardless of my effort, regardless of the work that I put in, I'm not owed that belt buckle. I've got to earn that damn thing.
Yeah,
And
you do.
I've got to put one step in front of the other, and I've got to show that I earn it. I've got to show that I got to earn it. And I've got to work for it. And a multitude of things can go wrong, and a multitude of things will go wrong, and I have to continue to work through those things and continue to push myself. And I don't want to take it for granted. I don't want to go into this race, thinking I got in the bag. I think you guys have mentioned it before, and I think it's really profound. Even somebody like Rob Apple, who's completed close to 800 ultra marathons or more at this point.
Yep.
He's
Yeah.
getting close to it. Every race, you ask him, what number is this going to be, Rob? And he'll tell you, if I finish, right? If I finish. And you can't take it for granted. You can never take it for granted. And you can never you never know what's going to happen. And you never know the challenges you're going to face. And you definitely don't want to put yourself, but you can be prepared, and you can definitely be confident, and know that you've got the tools in your bag to be able to be accomplished, and have a good team around you and good setup, and all those things that go into that. But never, nothing's ever guaranteed, and
Yep.
you've still got to put the damn work in.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
At the end of the day.
me and Chris Stamen. So we'll text a couple times a week, and one of the things that we always say, like, because we're talking about each other's goals and stuff, and and you don't realize that you say this until you see each other typing it back and forth, but it's 100% true. And it's like, we'll see how, I've got big goals, but we'll see how the day goes.
Yeah.
And how my body responds.
Yeah.
And from there, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's okay to have a huge goal, if you have one, if you want to push yourself, but you also have to have the mentality to understand that some days shit just goes wrong. And what are you going to do to respond to it?
Yeah.
And giving up is the absolute wrong answer, or compromising with yourself is the wrong answer. Work through it. It's only going to make you better. And the next day when you wake up, you're going to just be so proud of yourself and what you've accomplished. Michael, what 100-miler are you doing?
So I am signed up for Camp Croft in Spartanburg, South Carolina. It's
And
at the
that
end of
is
March.
the weekend of my birthday. Look at that. March
So what
3rd.
It is put on by Mountaineer Rumble. It's a group out of South Carolina. I think it's the inaugural race. I'm not sure on that. I think it is. It's a 10-mile loop course. It's a 10-mile course in Croft State Park in Spartanburg. So it's 10-mile loops. And when selecting, when really deciding to do a 100-mile early in the spring, I wanted to do one early because I wanted to get it over with. I wanted to get it done. That's the goal for 2024. I wanted to try to get one in as early as I could, and there was a couple earlier options. Earlier options involved a lot of pavement, and that, in essence, it wasn't an option for me. There was an option of pistol. I'm not going to do that one. There's an option of a couple of 24-hour races. There's an option of a race out in West Virginia. Conquer the Wall, I think is the name of that one. That's a 24 and 48 hour. It's all pavement. And I know myself enough at this point. It doesn't work out well for me running a race on pavement of any kind. And I just don't feel myself running on pavement. I come alive in the woods. I just really do, it's really my happy place. So, I like to be out there as much as possible. So, but I wanted a race that was kind of the loop mentality, the kind of loop in terms of support, in terms of crewing and that support in that regard, but also didn't want a race that was short loops, 2 miles, 3 miles, mentally, the opportunity to phone it in. Also just, the flow of the running, have to slow down and re-gear every 3 miles. Just can never really catch a flow with that way. With the 10-mile loop, you have more of that opportunity to just kind of catch the flow. If you feel bad on mile 3, you just got to push through because you got 7 more to go. If you feel mad on a 3-mile loop, and you're mile 1, you feel bad. Well, you just got 2 miles and then you just walk it in, right? Kind of that mentality. So one is something that was going to be kind of a step up from a dirt circuit kind of a course to a shorter course, or, anything on a locomotion or something like that. That's a pavement 1 mile, 2 mile course. So wanted something that was going to be a little more extended, but also wanted something that was closer to home. It's 3 hours to Spartanburg, so it's not too far away. about
No,
make me go. It's like us going to Nashville. You know, it's just kind of one of those
it's not.
things.
It's not
Yeah, it
bad at
looks
all.
like you'll end up with about 7,000 feet elevation gain, so that's not bad
Yep,
either.
not bad
Seven.
at all.
So tell me, what's so what's your strategy as far as nutrition, hydration? Like, what are you taking? What are you gonna? What's your plan here?
So we're still working that out. I think that's a constant work in progress. Um, I think the planning of it really started at Dirt Circuit because I um, realized that the amount of gear needed for a 24-hour effort is significantly more than that of a 6-hour effort. You've got, uh, and those were good lessons learned during that event. I mean, you've got you not only temperature changes from day to night, but your body doesn't doesn't regulate its core temperature well 24 hours into a race.
Mm-mm.
And so it might be 60 degrees out, but your body doesn't recognize that. It's cold, right? So
Yeah,
I remember Dirt Circuit, I finished that race in a damn hoodie because for me, it was so cold because my body stopped regulating my
it
body heat.
was. It was pretty cold that morning, though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was.
And it was damn 90 in the race day or 80 or whatever. It was brutal. I wanted to jump in the dang water. Um, it was really, there's quite a bit of fluctuation with an event like that. So significantly more gear. Um, you know, shoes are a big thing. Went to um, Barn Creek and ended up, having shoes but not having the right kind of shoes. So ended up running in the wrong kind of shoes and ended up needing more shoes and didn't have them. So I'm showing up to Camp Croft with 6 pairs of shoes, 3 trail and 3 road. Road shoes are going to have about 10 miles on them. They're going to be fresh and ready to roll. Um, the appropriate gear for, your crew in terms of cooking food, the expense of that, the expense of hydration, having multiple levels of hydration from tailwind to hoist, to hard food, real food, quesadillas, all of that goes into that. Mary's been really good about kind of through this process, testing it out, whole foods in terms of Gone Loco, eating at Gone Loco, kind of what happens if you don't eat. Last loop at Gone Loco, I didn't eat, and it significantly impacted my energy levels. You wouldn't think over an hour that you really need to, at the turnaround on the last loop at Gone Loco, I didn't take a gel, and I probably should have had taken two. So I thought I've got 30 minutes left, and I'll be back, I'll be fine, and then I just died halfway back. So being really, on it in terms of that. I had to go buy a bunch of more gear, had to buy a bunch of socks, had to buy a bunch of, water bottles for the vest that I want to wear because I want to wear a specific vest, and had to go buy, shocks for my music and the challenges.
Mhm.
It's a never ending list of supplies that you need for a bigger challenge. So um so it's a laundry list of things, but being really prepared. I ended up going and buying 2 extra headlamps because I was at a Dirt Circuit. I ran out of light, like 4 hours into the night, my dang battery died on my headlamp, right? Like I didn't think I needed to, right?
Yeah.
I never had experienced it. So if you don't make those mistakes, you don't learn from those things, regardless of what people tell you. So you just kind of have to bring the whole shebang. So lots of gear, lots of equipment, kind of getting ready for that. I just want to be prepared. I don't want the fact that I don't have the sweatshirt to be the result of me being adding more discomfort near the end of the race and my body not being able to regulate its temperature. Um, because if my body truly, it's one of those things where, my mind, if I'm gonna push it, I'm gonna push it. But if I can't regulate my own body temperature, I got to be prepared for that. And it's only my mistake if I don't. So,
You're talking about the body regulation of the temperature. Like at mid state, I mean, that race is in June, and during the day, it's in the 90s. But at nighttime, when you get at the 12 hour, you get a 20-minute break. And it instantly, the sun's still up, but the temperature drops and you're freezing. So, if you're right, if you don't have like, a blanket, a hoodie, something like that, that can change, how you're racing, how you're running, how you can eat because, you get too cold, you get too hot, you can't eat. So having that extra stuff with you does help, and then, it can change your race. It can, kill your race or save your race.
I take hot hands with me and gloves to every race.
Yeah.
That's my two things is like I cannot stand my hands getting cold. And that's usually the first thing to get cold on me like that. So it's, and y'all have seen my box.
Mm-hmm.
I take that box to every race, Micah, that little box that I have with chews and goos and salt and headlamps and Band-Aids and Tylenol, ibuprofen. It's all in there.
Yep.
And I take that to every race, whether it's a half marathon or a 24-hour race, or, if I could have strapped it on my back at Ball State, I would have took it. But, it's.
I actually went and bought me a bigger one. The bigger toolbox that I got.
But you can't take enough, and that's the thing is like, you don't want to give yourself, and I think you're going about it the right way. Some people, and there's some races like I don't overthink. Like that year that we rolled up for Dirt Circuit, I rolled up, popped my trunk, and had goos and water, and that was it. And like, but I was only gonna be there for 12 hours. Wasn't concerned.
There's a lot that happens after 12 hours.
Right. Like when not happens and you've ran for that long, you're right. Your body doesn't regulate as well, and you're usually moving a little slower, and you're not generating as much body heat, and chafing and all kinds of other things happen at night, because you're not drying out there. And that's the thing is like, if you've never done that, it's a whole new experience.
Yep.
And you've done it once, and now you're getting ready to do it again. And this time you have a bigger ambition, a bigger goal. So the goal is to not give yourself an out.
Yeah.
And I think you're going about it the right way, because you don't want anything in your head at 3:00 in the morning when you say I'm cold and all you got's a t-shirt.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think another key component of this, I think your greatest piece of equipment or your greatest resource during an event like this, especially your first one. Not everybody's the same, but for me, I am really lucky that I have got a really good crew that's going to be there for Kentcroft. After Barn Creek, Brandon Johnson, he's on the East Coast Adventures race team. I didn't run with Brandon a whole lot, early on, but since Barn Creek, we've spared a lot of miles during Barn Creek and really kind of connected on that race. And he committed to running Kentcroft with me, and with the goal of getting me that buckle, of helping me through that journey. So he's racing it, but we're going to run it together. And so since then, we've, I would say 60% of my miles has been running with Brandon, and sharing that journey and that experience with him, and having these conversations of hey, listen, just so you know. And I've told, I've had multiple conversations with him and my other crew member, Marcia, about, at the end of the day, I emailed them last week. I said, at the end of the day, I'm just telling you right now, I'm not going to, you're going to have to get an ambulance to pull me off that damn course. Like, you don't make decisions when you're not able to make decisions. You make decisions and you set parameters for your health and for everything that you want to decide beforehand, because you can't trust yourself, 70 miles into an effort, whether you want to quit or not. That's the decision that needs to be made beforehand, and that needs to be made with the crew, and they need to understand the parameters with which that happens. If I can, and so like literally you have to really set those parameters. And it's important too, because you can't trust a runner to make a honest decision that they're going to live with. That they're going to be able to live with when they're in the midst of doing that journey. You have to make that decision beforehand, and you have to really set those parameters up with your crew. So crewing is really critical, because there's a lot of trust and responsibility that goes into it for them, and they've got to understand those parameters. So having a good crew and having those conversations is really important, because you can make or break a race based on Brandon will everybody has those experiences where they're like, dang it, I wish I could have done it differently. I wish I hadn't, David ran himself into rhabdo, and, it hit your situation was a little bit different because you didn't have any symptoms. What would
Right.
happen, what would happen if you had symptoms and you were like, ah, screw it, I'm fine, I'm just going to keep going, right? So you got to really have those decisions because at a certain point, there are health implications to continuing on some of these
Mm.
journeys. But you got to set those parameters beforehand. Like, if I'm complaining about my feet, just tell me to suck it up. Just push me back out there. If I'm throwing up, just keep me going, right? Like, you got to have
Slap
those
yourself in the
conversations.
face.
You have to
Slap
Well,
slap
yourself
yourself in the
in the face.
face until you stop throwing up.
and
Yep,
that's the
that
thing
works.
that your crew has to do for you. And, and Brandon and Marsha are both going to be great because they're runners and they're going to understand this.
Yeah.
And like sometimes having a crew member that's not a runner, if they've not crewed a lot of people, they make this mistake. And it's like, I feel bad. I can't keep nothing down. I don't want to do this race no more. Oh, you can quit whenever you're
Yep.
ready.
They're ready to shut you
That
down.
is just fuel for the fire for someone
Yep.
that's, like, and with you having, Brandon's great. And Brandon's a great runner. Marsha's great. She's a great runner. I think having them, and Marsha is a great crew person. I watched her at Barn Creek crew multiple people, and she's going to be like right on your, right on top of you saying, you need to do this, you need to do this. She's going to be trying to get you back out there.
Yep.
And that's what you need. You don't need anybody fueling the other Micah.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
have two sides here. And
The wife
whichever
and kids
one,
are staying at home.
well, and that's kind of how it is like when you're running, you have these two feelings that are going on. And one is like, at some moments you feel like you're crushing it
Yeah.
and you're going to conquer the world and things are clicking. And then 2 hours later, what am I doing? Why do I do this? I hate this. I hate this feeling. I don't feel good. My feet are hurting. And then 2 hours later, you're back to this. But here's the thing, whichever one you feed
Yeah.
is usually going to be the outcome. And if you start telling yourself over here that, yeah, I'm hurting, I can walk from here.
Yep.
Oh, I just got to keep moving. But if I sit down for a couple of hours, I'll be okay. Well, it's close enough to the end at this point. That doesn't work.
Nope.
You can't make compromises. You need someone to say, suck it up. Like, you're okay. Take 2 Tylenol, get your ass back out there.
Yep.
Like that's what, tough love. And you've got runners that are going to help you do that.
Mhm.
They're not going to like put you in harm's way, but they're also going to push you to be your best.
Yeah.
And that is what you need. You don't want someone that's going to push you into an injury. You just want someone that's going to not listen to you when you're whiny and your ice cream's too cold and your, water's not going to taste good and whatever. It's short-lived. As soon as you can get that under control, you're going to be back to normal, and you're feeding this guy again, and you're like, okay, things are coming back.
Yeah.
I've got this. And that's what you got to continue to tell yourself is, I'll tell you like my biggest mantra, and I don't even know if I've ever told Matt this, but like my biggest mantra in a race, and it's you've kind of heard me say this in these podcasts, but and that's why I say it so much, because it's my mantra, and it's like, you're going to forget all this shit in the morning. This is what I tell myself in a race at 3:00 in the morning when I'm just trying to get done and like things may or may not, even when they're going good, I still tell myself this, because if I catch myself walking, this is what I say. You're going to forget all this shit in the morning. You're going to forget all the pain you were in. You're going to forget all the sad, like whiny stuff that you're going through. You're going to forget that, yeah, your stomach's hurting, because when you're finished, the only thing that you're going to remember is that you did it.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, the only thing you're going to think about is, why did I quit? And that's what I tell myself in every race when I get in my head and I'm like, oh, you're not going to finish, David, or oh, you suck, or why everything's hurting. You're not.
Mhm.
No. Remember what you're here to do,
Why
you're here. And remember that most of these feelings that you're feeling right now, you will not remember tomorrow. And that's the thing that you really have to remember, because think back to Dirt Circuit, Micah. Do you truly remember how bad it was? Exactly. 90% of it is truly in your head. Now, granted, there's a lot of hurt going on. There's a lot of things that hurt in a 100-mile race, 50-mile race. It's all about relative effort. However hard you run, plan on it being hard.
Yeah.
You know, a 100-mile race, even if you walk it, it's going to hurt. But a lot of that hurt is exemplified by the fact that you're whiny, you're tired, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you can't keep food down. And
And
you forget.
it's in those situations that you've really got to be mindful of what you tell yourself. What are you telling yourself in those moments? Because those moments are going to be is going to be the determination of your race in a lot of ways. Are you giving yourself permission to whine, complain, bitch, and moan? Or are you telling yourself to suck it up and get going? I mean, it really is. I mean, it comes down to it. You can't make excuses for yourself. You just have to. It's a mental practice of really pushing yourself and staying engaged in what you're trying to accomplish.
You know, and at the end of the day, no one cares whether you finish.
Nope.
They don't
A
care.
lot of people that are watching you want you to fail.
Well, and I mean, like, if I tell someone I ran 100 miles,
They don't care.
they're like, okay. And then the next week, if I tell them, like, I did a 100-mile race, but I only ran 80 of it, that's pretty awesome too. I mean, they don't care.
Nope.
They do not care. But to
Well,
you,
since when have you ever started running for somebody else?
right. But for you, that's the thing.
Mhm.
And that's what I was getting at, is like, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
Yep.
Even if your crew says, like, and here's the thing, like, even if your crew says, well, maybe you should just sit down, Micah, and take it easy. If you're not hurting, why?
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, that's the thing, is like, even your crew has to be there to push you, because at the end of the day, it's all you. You know, the decisions to move forward is on you. I mean, your crew can get you out, but what you do for those next 10 miles,
That's up to you.
that is your choice. And that is a conversation me and Mike Taylor and Matt had at the Stinger. And I didn't really have it with Matt. I had it with Mike. And that was at 3:00 in the morning. Mike was about to fall off track of getting 100 miles. And he was in there sitting in the tent with his head between his legs, literally. And I just looked at him and I said, I've done all I can do. All I can do. The rest is on you. If you want the 100 miles, it's up to you at this point. There's literally nothing else I can do for you. And he looked at me and he stood up and he started running. And at the end of the day, like that morning, he looked at me and he said, you were right. He's like, it pissed me off when you told me that. He's like, but you were right. And he got his 100 miles. And you've got to remember to tell yourself that, Micah. At the end of the day, your crew can get you out on that 10-mile loop.
Yeah.
But when you're 5 miles in and walking, when you should be running, I mean, granted, you're not going to run the whole 100 miles, but you sure don't want to walk the whole last 50 miles either.
No.
You know, and that's where you got to figure out, like, what are you going to tell yourself when it gets hard?
That wasn't a rhetorical question, obviously.
No. What are you going to tell yourself when it gets hard? Like, how are you going to push through this?
Yeah, I think that's really, really ties into the why. Why do we do it?
Well, let's hear it. I mean, we're going to ask you that question anyways,
I know.
Micah. So why? Why do you run? What's going to keep you going?
I think honestly, completely, I feel that if I am not pushing myself towards a goal that is what I believe beyond my ability, when I first started training for 100 miles, I knew figuratively that I could do 100 miles, but in the big scheme of things, it wasn't within my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I fully believe that if I'm not pushing myself towards a goal such as that, I'm going to go right back to being the 350-pound guy that I never want to see again.
Yeah.
I never want my kids to see him again. I never want my wife to see him again. I don't want to be that person anymore. And that guy took the easy way out. That guy made poor decisions on his health and on his diet and on his decisions, and I don't want to be that guy. So when it comes down to it, it's the same thing we have to ask ourselves every day when you wake up and you're like, I don't really want to run today.
Yeah.
And you have to talk yourself into it every day, because sometimes it's not about motivation. Sometimes it's not about feeling motivated to accomplish something. Sometimes we do it because we just do it because we have to.
Yeah.
And why do we have to? Because we decided that we have to, because we decided that's important to us. And we decided that it's important to demonstrate for our kids that we can do hard things.
Yeah.
And if I'm not giving my all, if I'm taking time and energy away from my family, and I am dedicating a significant amount of energy and time into something such as this, and I let myself be defeated by something that I let myself off the hook, what am I teaching my kids? That it's okay. It's okay to give up when it's hard. Like I don't want to ever demonstrate that for my children.
Hmm.
And so I know that it's not a given. I know that the results aren't guaranteed. I know I'm going to have to earn it. At the same time, I'm not going to quit. I'm just not going to quit. I'm not going to allow myself to be in a place where I say, you know what, I'm going to quit. I mean, they're going to literally have to pull me off the course in the ambulance. It's not going to happen. If I can move under my own power, I'm going to be moving under my own power.
Yeah.
And it might hurt and it might suck, but hey, guess what? If you run, you'll get there faster.
Heard that a time or two.
Nobody cares. Run faster.
That's right.
No, I love your answer. And there, you said a lot in there, but at the end of the day, it's you have changed your life drastically, and those actions that you have made have led you to where you're at now with this community. And I think it's opened up doors for you for meeting people and being in East Coast Adventures and just learning a whole new thing about yourself that you didn't realize as far as like what you're capable of. And to be able to go and explore that and give that lesson to your kids so that they see what you're doing and that, yeah, life is hard, but we can push through that and we can do these things. And you're setting an example that will last a lifetime for them. And I love that. Love that, man. Great answer. Do you have fears of going back to that 350 pounds? Because you say
Every
that
day.
like,
Every day.
I've even heard him say it, make little gestures at it at races, about things like that. And you say it, but then you still go out there and you do the whatever you have to do. So I can see that where it's in your mind, where you're always thinking about it.
It's an addiction. You know, it's kind of a catch-22. This is something that we talk about a little bit in our sport, but we don't really talk about it on the ultra side of things just because it's not as big a prevalent of an issue. But, an addict, an alcoholic, for example, that is their identity.
Hmm.
And if they are in recovery, then they're always in recovery. They're always in that state of recovery. And that's how I feel about, um, being a heavier person. I mean, I was obese. Guys. I was 350 pounds. Um, there's always that fear, that addiction, that unhealthy relationship with food, that is always there. And there's this issue right now. There's this constant struggle between the addiction side of reality of I'm always in my own head. I'm always fat. I'm always obese. I'm always struggling with my relationship with food and the overconsumption of it and whatnot. There's always that struggle. At the same time, there's also this huge push to love yourself, to have a healthy relationship with your body, to be body positive, right? So
Mm.
it's in a way, it's in my mind, it's an addiction, but at the same time, you're getting pushed. So you're constantly in this kind of this challenging place of where do I need to be? Because I'm being told that it's not healthy to be in this place of it's an addiction, it's an addiction, it's an addiction, and identify as that because that'll change your worldview of how you view yourself. But at the same time, then you're also struggling with, you don't want to minimize it because then you give yourself grace to, it's like the alcohol, give himself grace to have a drink. What do you think is going to happen? Right?
Yeah.
Like, and so yeah, I mean, obesity is the one thing. It's also the mental and identifying factors that come with that after the weight's gone. And that's why I point to the journey and I point to the experience so much because there's never ever a destination, right? Like there's never ever a
Yeah.
destination in weight loss, in bettering yourself and the health component of it. You're always in recovery. And I view myself as always being in recovery. And I believe 100% fully that if I'm not actively pursuing these goals and improving in this area, because I find so much joy in it, it motivates me. I can find so much joy and power in it that I am going to revert back to that place. And that's not good for my mental health. That's not good for my physical health. That's not good for my family. And so in my world, it's all or nothing. And there's no living a healthy lifestyle, running 20 miles a week. It doesn't exist. I'm just going to go right back to where I was before.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a long-winded thing of saying it's a real struggle because you do kind of fight these two worlds of body positivity and then the obesity factor and the addiction component. There's a lot of talk in our sport about body positivity. There's not much talk about, there's you're probably going to edit all this out, but there's not
No,
much there's not
well,
much talk there's not much talk about the struggle of obesity, accomplishing that, and then also the journey that happens after that. That's
Yeah.
what was so special about I'm gonna get emotional about Gone Loco, that young lady that finished past the finish line at Gone Loco and said, I was 350 pounds and then I just completed 30. I think that's a really meaningful thing to me, and I find so much joy in seeing people experience those things and accomplish those things because I've been there. I know what that feels like. Um, and I know what that
I
feels
mean,
like after every race because I'm living it. I'm still living it.
well, and that's the thing. Like with her, she kind of did the same thing you did, from what I understood a little bit. I talked to her, like that was her first. Like she couldn't believe she finished this race. She was 330 pounds, and lost all that weight and finished this race. And I mean, when she crossed the finish line, she just lost it,
Yeah, she
because
did.
she was so proud of herself and
Mhm.
so happy. Um, but you're right, Michael. That's something that I've never thought about after the fact, is that you still have that fear and you're still fighting that. And I mean, let's be real. We're all addicted to something. Like that's the thing, is like the most of the time ultra runners that have became addicted to ultra runners, they've come from some type of addiction or some type of
That's
thing.
very
I
true.
But
think
Yeah.
I don't. I disagree. I disagree. I think that you can have. I think addiction, in and of itself, is unless you are an addict, there's this impulse control that is so irrational. It's like mental health. Unless you have to, and even with mental health, and addiction is a mental health issue, right? It's a mental
Mhm.
health defect. So it kind of correlates in the same way, but it's not rational. Like running and the joy and the value we get from running as runners, we can rationalize the value that has in our lives. Addiction is an issue that people, they can't rationalize it. There's no way of truly understanding the component of addiction because people will destroy their lives to their own detriment through their addiction. They don't have control over their addiction. It's all consuming, right? And so unless you are kind of in that place, you can't. It's hard to speak on that because if you're healthy, you can't understand the unhealthiness that results in an addiction. Does that make sense?
I mean, I get what you're saying for sure, but all I was saying was like most ultra runners that get into the sport, they've been addicted to something. And if you listen to like a lot of the stories,
Yeah.
like Katra Corbett, she was
Oh yeah.
she was
Oh yeah.
addicted to drugs real bad. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
ultra running is an addiction on its own for some people to help them get off of that.
Yeah.
I just wonder, like, for them too, I would imagine, I guess they have those same fears, and I guess I've never really thought about that. Like at any point you could, just like you, like your fear of obesity, and they're probably fear of alcoholism
Oh, yeah.
or fear of
I've listened.
getting back on drugs. And it's just kind of scary to think about that like your new addiction is ultra running.
Yeah.
And like if that was taken away,
Something else would show up.
what, like I just, it's kind of scary to think about a little bit, I mean, because I know a lot of people, their mental health is running.
Yeah.
And, when that gets taken away from them, they feel like they've just lost their entire life, and you hate to see stuff like that. So it just makes me think about that in a whole different way. Like,
And that's why community is so important, especially when you're going through an injury, because, the community is that support that kind of continues to pull you out of that headspace. After Barn Creek, I was at a place where I really thought I was injured for a while. My orthopedic surgeon was talking about surgery, like,
No.
and it ended up being, poor muscle development and poor strength training. That Mary, thank God for Mary, helped me work through and fix. And but that is a very scary place to be, and it is very scary.
You're 100% right, though. It's the community at that point. Like, you have to lean in, and even if that's signing up to volunteer for an event, just getting back out there. And that's the thing. It's like, that you don't think about it, but like, just because running's taken away from you, the community's not.
Yeah, agreed.
That's your choice, and if you can get back out there, you can fill some of that void. That's a great point, Micah.
It's kind of ironic. I remember the first race I raced with you guys, or the first run I did with you, was 1776, and your first race after that was Fort Frenzy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys remember, but that first year, I did not run Fort Frenzy. I actually volunteered.
Yeah.
And I left Fort Frenzy thinking, I was a little bit discouraged leaving Fort Frenzy. My thought process was, man, I don't think I'm ever going to find a place with East Coast Adventures, because they're so family. It's like they're one big family, and I don't know how I fit in to that family. And so it was really interesting. And that was just, insecurities and everything else coming in from that side. But it was just interesting, ironically, the reasons I love, East Coast Adventures are the same reasons that gave me concern going in. I don't know how I fit with East Coast Adventures, because they're so, like, it was a family unit. I mean, Mike's wife and his kids were there, and Matt and his kids were there, and David and his kids were, like, it was a damn family of, family get together, right? And I just, and it was just kind of one of those times. But it's a true testament to you guys and how you guys built the community. It's really cool to see. Really cool to be, it's a blessing to be a part of, honestly.
But we are definitely one big family, and
it is.
We, that's truly what it's about. We need to be able to help each other and support each other, because, I mean, life's hard. Yeah. It is hard. There's going to be great times. There's going to be really rough times. And when those rough times are there, that's when you lean in more and you help each other. And, these events are fun, and they're a lot of work to do. Mm-hmm. But the most rewarding thing is just like that lady that crossed that finish line at Gone Loco. All the shit that we had to do to get everything ready for that race is gone. Yeah. Because just watching you all run that race and cross that finish line, and seeing the emotion on your face of accomplishing what you did, is the most rewarding thing we could ever ask for. I agree. And you've seen that, and you experienced that. And that's why it becomes a family, because we're there cheering the first person on and the last person on, because every person matters. Yeah. Every person counts. Every person deserves the same treatment to finish that race. It doesn't matter how good of a runner you are or not. We're there for you, and we're going to follow you through that whole race because we care. And, I hope people feel that. And
Yeah.
I hope that's really what we try so hard to do. It's if you come run a race with us, you are family.
Yep.
Period. And we try to make it feel that way. And I'm grateful that you feel that way now, Micah. And I hate that you had a little reservation in the beginning, but I see you come around. Well, Micah, we're going to change directions just a little bit. I mean, Matt's going to try to figure out how to unlock his phone and find these
Unlock the
questions.
phone, scroll through Instagram.
But since you already talked about why you run, how does that make you? While he's pulling up the questions, I'll ask you another question. What do you think is going to be the game changer for you in this race? Do you think it is your mindset now, or do you think it's just the experience from the dirt circuit? Like, or or is there something else you've been working on? Like, what do you feel is going to be your reason for success?
I think it'll be mindset 100%. I think it'll be where my head is at when things go bad, and feeding positive, feeding myself positive, productive, statements, and I put in the work physically, and I'm preparing logistically. I think between now and start time is where, for me, is where I'm going to really start to explore mentally where I need to be at. And the great thing about Mary and her coaching is she's so holistic in everything, from diet to training to strength training to planning to where are you at? How are you doing? Right? Like the relational, like everything we've talked about tonight, me and her have had this conversation time and time again. And so, we've got 3 weeks, 3 weeks now. Yeah, 3 weeks left till race day. And, really mentally and also just, coming up with a mantra, coming up with something that's going to really feed me during the struggles. Remembering my why, just kind of some trigger things that'll kind of help me mentally kind of work through those things. But, really coming to grips with pain. I really want to get to a point where where I'm running and I start to feel pain and I can kind of smile and just kind of embrace it and kind of just like, oh, there it is. Let's go. That kind of mentality with pain and fixing, really working on how I view pain and so far for me, pain has been a negative trigger for me. I start to feel pain, and then it immediately leads to just really demoralizing thoughts and thought processes that go with that. So, adjusting that and flipping that on its head is going to be the key to my success.
Well, and just it sounds like you're ready for that. Like you're ready for when it gets hard. And that in itself is a big difference maker because, like, going into that, it's going to get hard, and you're going to tell yourself that, so you'll be prepared. So you've like you said earlier, you've kind of already raised that level just a little bit, So I love it. All right, Matt.
All right.
What questions do we have for Mr.
Got a few questions from the listeners on Instagram, and then I got a few myself that I've got in here. So here we go. It says Micah has lost quite a bit of weight along his journey. What advice does he have for others who might be fighting to lose weight and get into running?
It's a great question. Like I said, I think that for me personally, in my personal journey, I had to lose the weight to be in a place where I could physically start to run. So I guess it really just depends on your personal journey in terms of where you're at in that journey. I don't recommend running as a way to lose weight. I don't ever recommend running as the goal, as if weight loss is the goal. Because in a lot of ways it's counterproductive. Okay. So it's, studies and studies and studies have shown that high intensity workouts and strength training greatly great, or much more productive in terms of losing weight and dieting. I mean,
Mhm.
obviously dieting in relation to running, even a steady pace for an hour or whatnot. And then also just the damage on joints and stuff. Everybody's at a different place in their journey. I mean, one person one person's perception of overweight is different from others. I mean, I still view myself as being overweight. I would, everybody that I talk to for the most part doesn't see me that way. I still see myself that way. Um, and so obviously I'm in a place where health wise I can run and still compete in
Mhm.
the back or the middle of the pack, but at the same, but I can still run. I can still go out there and do that. So I guess it's really just depends on where you are in your journey. If you really want to be successful, um, you've got to really want it.
Yeah.
Um, if you're in a place of, well, I'll just start tomorrow, you never get, because there's always tomorrow, until there's not. So if you want to be successful and that's something that you really want, you really got to determine your why and you've got to start today. Don't put off for tomorrow what you can get done today. So that's true for a lot of things in life, but this specifically, you have to start today or you just never will start.
Yeah. That's good. Okay. The next one is it's a statement about you. It
Oh
said
boy.
just a comment here about him being a bad eight advocate and promoter of others. So somebody recognizes you that you're pushing others, which
I
is
love
good.
how Matt keeps it PG-13,
Hey,
and
I
you
try to do
you're dropping all kinds of
I
bombs.
try to do my best. Another one here is could you ask him about the poop and go technique? He's very efficient at it.
So,
So
This strategy, Micah.
yeah, what
so,
is this? 'Cause I
so,
heard
so
stories.
got me before, about 2 miles in, I needed to go. And, it was kind of a flatter section. And so, um, there's a porta potty right there at mile 3, right about by
Mhm,
mile 3. Great location, by the way. It's fantastic.
mhm.
And before you get to it, it's a pretty much coming from the aid station. It's pretty much downhill going out. And so I think I got to definitely sixes. I was running 6 minute mile pace, and I flew by Dusty. He goes, "Where the hell did you come from?" And I was like, "Don't worry, I'm going to stop. You're going to catch me in just a second." And sure enough, I stopped and used the restroom. He got ahead of me, and he jokes that he got ahead of me, and then I caught up to him, and then he got ahead of me again because I had to stop. But that was all part of the plan. I needed to get there so I could take care of business and get back to it.
We
Definitely ran
we
a
call
lot lighter after that.
we call that the poop loop, Micah.
That's the poop loop. I know all about the poop loop. At Elsie last year, it was awful. Oh, so okay. The next question here is where would you like to see East Coast Adventures and East Tennessee running community go in the future?
Ooh, that's a big one.
Man, they're asking you some hard ones.
Oh, they
That,
got you
that
good.
that's a big one.
I feel like Micah's the mayor right now.
I know. We're doing like what do they do those?
So when I first got into running, I was doing some run groups. I did probably every run group in Knoxville,
Mm-hmm.
and then didn't really find the community that I wanted. And so I actually was an RD for a couple races that
Mm-hmm.
I really I enjoyed that process. And I thought they were fairly successful. Uh, it's a lot of work. I really admire you guys in terms of what you do, and you guys were both, instrumental in helping me with those events. Couldn't have done them without you guys. So obviously, you guys were great in that. And when I had first kind of started those events, I was kind of in this was late 22. Or was it 22 or 23? It was late 22,
Me too. Yeah.
December 22, and April 23. So that kind of time frame. Um, I hadn't really found my community. I had, obviously, um, I volunteer with Dirty Bird events. Love doing the races. They have just like 2 races a year that they do that I help out with. But then, there's not a really whole lot of community there, kind of more of the mountain bike community there. And
Mhm.
definitely not into that. I can't afford to be into that, regardless of whether I want to or not. Um, and so I had started a run group in Maryville that was just not successful. I could not create enough interest for it. And it was good in the essence of it got me and my daughter out every day, and I would run every Thursday. Would take her on a night run, and we'd go run the Greenway, Pistol Creek course, and it was great for that time in my life. But really didn't really create a community. East Coast adventures has really kind of been that spot for me, and I think what really kind of pushed East Coast Adventures over the edge in a lot of ways was your guys' decision to do the race team. And you guys don't promote the race team very much in your podcast or on the site, and I don't push it too much in terms of the dirt and vert because I kind of want to share with the whole community, and I do share races and try to do some race updates in that regard. But I just experienced so much camaraderie and community just with the creation of that race team. Um, I think as a racer, as a runner, and a trail runner, you do not get the full trail experience unless you are in a community where you're an active volunteer as well as a participant.
Mhm.
Being there and supporting someone else in their pursuit of their goal and their accomplishment of their goal is just as critical as you doing that yourself in order to get the full experience, right? That's my personal belief. That's my personal experience. Every race that every community I've ever been a part of, I've always volunteered first to see the other side of it before I ever raced or ran those groups. Like before I ever did an East Coast Adventure race, I volunteered first. Very first thing I did. And from there, obviously, I've run every race you guys have had to an extent. So obviously, I like but it's as much about community in terms of volunteering and crewing and helping as it is being an active participant in it. You don't get the full experience unless you do that. So, I'm really excited about East Coast Adventures. I'm really excited about what you guys are doing. Looking ahead and looking forward, I really see Cherokee 115 is going to be a pinnacle race for you guys.
Mhm.
Pending everything, the permits and all that, going forward into the next few years, point to point, real mountain race is going to be a real pinnacle thing for you guys. I think it's really cool and really exciting. But as much as that is a really cool event that you guys are going to have, you have also a very good variety of other races that appeal to the common man, to the person just running their first ultra, just getting started.
Mhm.
The way you guys care, the way you guys love the raid runners, the way you guys love your volunteers, the way you guys love on people and care about people, it shows. I mean, if you guys weren't doing that, I don't think you would be selling out races.
Yeah, true.
Um, and it always comes back to you. Um, and you wouldn't have people that would want to be involved in your community. Like you guys have people that are want to be involved in your community. I think is really cool. I think you guys' success in getting sponsors this year is a great example of that. Selling out Gone Loco. I think you guys are just beginning to really see the success. Um, and with everything that's going on in the ultra community and the ultra world, I think there's going to be a lot of people coming back to local races.
Mhm.
Um, and so, I think that that's going to be a real big thing for the local race communities. Um, and it'll be cool to see it. I think East Tennessee really needs a really good, strong mountain race. And I think you guys are going to provide that. Georgia's got Georgia Jewel, Cruel Jewel. Um, Virginia's got Mountain Masochist, which is legendary. Um, Tennessee has No Business. That's it. Um, Really, that's it. So, Cherokee 115, I think Cherokee 115 is probably going to be a harder race than No Business based on the vert catalog categories that you guys got
That's a
pulled.
bird.
So, I'm really excited about that for you guys. I think it'll be a real pinnacle. And if it becomes a real qualifying race, I think it'll be a huge thing for you guys.
Yeah.
Um,
We can always add
and,
that back.
yeah, let's not.
It's coming at some point though.
Leave that to David Lane and those people over in Chattanooga.
Oh, they are doing a good job down there. Sure, they
Yeah.
are. Camp Jordan's going to get wore out.
Yeah, I like it. I love it.
I do too.
Don't worry, I've got an idea. I've not even told anyone about.
Yeah, he
it,
mentioned it yesterday, so we'll see how this
when we
goes.
invite you to a meeting, Micah, we'll all discuss that.
All right, we got a few more questions here. What kind of strength plan are you doing?
Ask my coach, whatever the hell she tells me to do.
He's doing the Mary strength plan.
Oh, so you doing all this? You have to Google everything that you're doing.
Well, hopefully Mary listens to this.
Oh, she will.
Mary has a tendency to constantly be changing my strength plan, so I never know what the hell I'm going to be doing. So if she's listening to this, let's stick to something.
Well, like mine,
I spent half my time Googling what the hell she's talking about.
that's exactly what I had to do. She said, I'm like, okay, this is Google. I'm Googling, I'm watching things, and I'm like, okay, this is stuff I've never saw before. So yeah, but
Let's
finally figured
back. It's like the curtsy squats. Like, what the hell is that?
All right. What is your mileage per week?
So back to that strength training. I didn't want to blow that off. I just joking. But and I'll tie that into the mileage thing. But
okay.
Strength training I'm doing 2 days a week. I'm doing primarily legs one day, and then the other day I'm primarily doing a mix. She'll rotate it of shoulders, chest, some arm stuff, really mild, 30 to 35 minutes a day for both activities, just enough. Once Croft Mountain kind of is finished, we're going to take a different turn. We're going to go on the Dave Compton plan of getting ripped and getting swole and getting fast. So we'll be taking a different direction. So there'll be a significant increase in strength training at that point. Just as I kind of go
my own plan, I feel kind of flattered.
Go into a more of a off season kind of strength training wise and try to lose a little bit of weight and kind of try to get in better shape, physical shape, a little bit faster before I start back training for something in the late fall. I'll still be running, but I'll have I'll probably be doing more strength training a couple more days a week.
Yeah.
So 3 to 5 days a week, which is typically what I like to do anyway. So it's actually going to be kind of a hold back doing Mary's thing. I was doing a lot, but just time wise and trying to keep up with everything, it's nice to just be able to say, okay, what does Mary have me doing today, and just go do it. Keeps me accountable in that way, so that's great. Mary's got me anywhere from 40 to 50 miles a week. She's got me doing a long run once a week. Sometimes I'll have to break that up. Sometimes she'll have me do it on Saturday, and I'll have to move some things around, do it on Sunday or whatnot. Anywhere from a 20 to 30, 20 miler to a 50K pay, 50K length, somewhere in that spectrum, kind of across the board ever since December 1st. We've been doing that. So during the week, it's pretty, an hour here every day. Leading up to the weekend, I typically take a day off during the weekend, just kind of recover. But yeah, I'm not a high mileage guy at this stage right now. I probably won't be, just time constraints. I wish I had the time to go 100 miles a week. It would be wonderful.
It doesn't work for everybody though.
It doesn't. So yeah, right now, I'm doing about 45, 50 miles a week.
Did you improve your time at Gone Loco?
I did improve my time at Gone Loco. 2023, I was in at 5:15:27 or something like that, and then this year I was in at
5:21 and 4:50.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so about 23-minute difference there.
Look at that. That's pretty good.
That is good.
Well, especially since I wasn't racing it.
Training run.
And you even did a poop loop.
Now, if only I could show up to that race not hungover, that would be fantastic. Well, I might need to cancel the party the night before.
Yeah, no, you can't do that.
In all seriousness.
What type of shoes do you wear for the trails?
Oh Lord, trail shoes. Well, I was running in Brook Cascades, really like that. Brook Cascades have a solid toe box on top, so if you are typical to if you trip over rocks easily, or in some cases sidewalks, then the hard toe is really nice in those situations. Really kind of protects your toes. And then I also switched to a Saucony Exodus trail shoe,
Mm-hmm.
which I really, really liked. I say I like them. I really do like them. The last two times I've raced in them, I've really got really bad blisters on the front of my toes. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if that's due to impact with debris and rocks or whatnot, or just the way the shoes are wearing. I've got some rub and some friction there. So I'm probably going to retire the pair that I've got. I'll probably end up buying another pair because I really do enjoy them. Um, but and then I recently switched to a Brooks shoe, which is a little bit lighter, um, and I enjoy those. I do pretty well with rotating through some shoes, and I haven't really found a trail shoe that I really like. I'm still kind of exploring that. I've really kind of focused. I do most of my training on the road
Mm-hmm.
just because of my location in terms of work and everything else, and um, just for work, I train primarily on the road. Do most of my long runs on the trail. I like to do that. Um, but I have pretty much run in the same pair of road shoes since the beginning, but do kind of mix it up more on the trail. My road shoes are probably one of the only people that run in these, but Skywave 6. Um, and then I actually started recently running in the Triumph, Saucony Triumph.
So is
Night,
the Skywave, is that Mizuno? I got a pair of those.
yeah, they're expensive.
Oh,
I'll get them.
I got them for $20.
Long gone, gone, or whatever the hell it is. It's a great place
I
to
got the
buy shoes.
Triumphs at Going Gone.
Yep, going, gone. That's it.
God, they had a Black Friday sale. I got them
I
for like
like, I like the, I like the
$10.
bounce on. I like the bounce. It feels like I'm flying on those Triumphs.
Well, they got a 10 millimeter drop. I mean, it's
Hmm.
pretty big.
Shoot.
I've
Yeah,
typically the
and the
Mizunos.
Skywaves
I
got
think the Mizunos. I think got a
they
12
don't
drop
feel
on
like it to
those.
me.
Yeah,
Mine don't feel like it. They feel like I'm running flat footed.
Hey, that's why we're all different.
yeah.
All right,
Shoes are a tough one.
Yeah.
last question. What is your favorite hydration?
This podcast is sponsored by Hoist. uh, and in reality, I really do enjoy Hoist. I've always kind of run with Trailwind. I am really blessed. Up to this point, I've really had a really good stomach. Um, I can run an ultra and eat pizza and be just fine. Don't have a sensitive stomach. I like Tailwind. Really do like Tailwind. But I actually like the taste and the process of um, Tailwind. I feel is really salty. I feel like there's a lot of sodium in it, so I
Hmm.
like that, like the feeling of drinking it. But Hoist is just more refreshing to me.
Yeah,
Like, and I like the bottles more than I like the mix. Make sure you let them know that.
Agree with that.
we all agree with that.
Bottles are, but yes, Hoist is a good call. Hoist
Yep.
is a good call.
Like, what's your favorite flavor?
I'm not too picky. The watermelon, I think, is the best.
I like that blue raspberry.
I'm kind of the same way you are, Micah. I use multiple ones, and I
Yeah.
think Matt does too.
I use all kinds, but
Like for this marathon this weekend, I'm going to use Roctane. So
Yeah.
and my other two, like Dirt Circuit, I use Scratch the whole time. A couple other races I've used Toys. So it's
well, it's always good to be able to change them up because after you do drink something over and over and over, you're kind of like, man, I'm tired of drinking this.
Yeah.
So, like,
The
even
one,
in an ultra, having multiple different things, I think helps. 'Cause, I mean, that's what I do. I have
well,
multiple.
you never know what an aid station is going to
You
have
really don't.
in a point-to-point race.
Yep.
So you might as well get used to drinking a lot of different stuff.
Yep.
that's a good point. And I think the other thing that I need to think more of is I'm kind of explore more down the road is Hoist is really good and refreshing, but Hoist doesn't have a very high caloric intake. So if you're just going to drink Hoist, you can't just drink Hoist as your
Yeah.
soul. You've got to
Yeah.
add to it. Whereas Tailwind, you can pretty much drink Tailwind just by itself and maybe supplement a goo or two. But they've started coming out, and forgive me, I do not know who makes them, but they've started coming out with these carb gels that have like 95 carbohydrates in a single gel.
Precision hydration.
Precision hydration. And I'm intrigued by that. I'm intrigued by that a lot.
It's a lot. It's those big gels. I've taken them.
That's the ones you had?
Yeah. Mary actually gave me some at Three Sisters I used last year. I mean, they were pretty good. But same thing with Roctane. So that's why I do Roctane and Tailwind. So Roctane 2 scoops is 250 calories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's what I do. And that's kind of the same as Tailwind. 2 scoops is, I think, over 200 calories. So
yeah, and I think a bottle of Hoist will give you 70 calories.
Yeah.
You know, so
it's very much
not
like Scratch. Scratch is the same way. If you're just using regular Scratch,
you have to supplement it. You have to supplement it.
And
if your body won't take solid foods, and all you can do is drink, and all you've got is Hoist, you're kind of up a creek without a paddle at that point.
Well, and you can go up the other creek too, and that's what I was getting at was like I'd gotten used to like running with Scratch and taking a goo. Yeah. So like no business, I would drink Scratch, and I would take 2 goos every hour. Yeah. That was basically about 300 calories.
Yeah.
Well, the first time I did a race with Roctane, I did the same thing with the goos, and David's stomach went really bad pretty quick because I was taking 250. I didn't think about it. I was drinking the same amount as quickly, but I was taking those 250 calories, and then I hit 2 goos every couple of hours. Within a few hours, my stomach was so bad because I was taking like way over 300 something calories.
Yeah,
plus
your body couldn't process it enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it blew my stomach up, and I was like, okay, I've got to quit. So like when I'm doing stuff like that now, I pay more attention to like my calories and my gels and what I'm doing, but it never even crossed my mind that I was doing that till it was too late. That was a rough race. So
you live and you learn.
But to your point, you got to be aware of that. So like when you're going to a race, you've got to be ready for it. And like if you're going to take your own stuff, great.
Yeah.
But that only works if someone's going to be there with you at every aid station, which more than likely isn't going to happen.
No, I shared a loop race.
Yeah.
Loop races, you can set it all up and have your stuff.
Which is a great place to try a 100-miler for sure. The loop setting.
Yeah. Micah, do you have any questions for us?
I'm excited for you guys. You guys are going to go run. Dave's about to go run his first marathon here in 3 or 4 days. He looks so excited.
You can't tell the way his reaction is. He is excited about this marathon.
Mary looked at me earlier. She's like, I've never seen you like this. Like she's like, I ask you and you just don't seem excited. I'm like, I'm not. I was like, now when race day gets here, it'll be different and I'll be excited. When I get to that finish or that start line, like it'll happen. I'm just not really sure.
It's still 3 hours of
suck. I'm like, this to me is the journey. Like this is the journey for where I'm wanting to go later in this year. This is part of the process. I don't have to like it. I don't have to enjoy it. Am I going to show up on that starting line and try to run a 6:40 pace for 26 miles? Damn right.
That sounds awful.
I'm going to try my best. But it's a part of the process. Yeah. It may go bad. It may go good. I don't know. But it's part of that process to get me to where I want to be. Yep. And, and there's some suck that goes along with that. So here we are. Yep. I've got those brand new New Balance Elite V4s that's going to propel me to a 6:40 pace.
That's instantly already 5 minutes faster. So,
well, thank you, Micah.
Yeah.
You're looking more forward to it than I am.
Micah, have you ever ran a road marathon?
Nope, never will either.
I come do it in Knoxville with us. We got a team going.
He says with us, but I can guarantee you that us does not include David Compton.
No, it includes me and whoever else, but
the us so far is Matt.
It's me. No, we got me and Kelly signed up, and
I'll be there to buy you a beer afterwards.
Yeah, I'll be at the finish line with you, Micah.
After I got done last year, here comes Micah. After I get the finish, and he's talking to me, blah blah blah, and all of a sudden I said, I gotta go.
Hold on
I
a
went over,
second. Turn around.
found the grassiest spot I could, and I'm laying down, just letting it go. Micah was there to greet me at the finish line, but then I had to tell him bye. I had to go throw up.
It happens.
It happens.
Well, thank you, Micah. Any other
Yes, sir.
questions?
I'm all good, man. Good talking to you. Almost hit 2 hours here.
This
I
will
know,
be the
man.
officially the
I
longest
guess,
podcast.
I guess you got some cutting to do.
No, we won't edit much of this. Let's do it. I will say, great conversation. I really respect you talking about the addiction piece. 'Cause I just never really have thought about it that way as far as, you've always heard this sport and, a lot of people are addicted to it. A lot of us have addictions, but a different type of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So to talk about that and bring it out and bring in the open is very, I think, very cool to see that, other people are struggling with this too. And we don't always think about that and see that. So I truly respect you and thank you for bringing that up, because it's just stuff that kind of gets, just kind of smoothed over and we don't really ever talk about it.
Yeah, and I think also, I think that body image and eating disorders is really prevalent in the running community on the female side of things. You never heard it talked about on the male side of things. No one's ever
No.
talked about it. And it's just, I don't think it's just as prevalent, but I still think it exists.
Yeah.
And so I've experienced and I'm living proof of it, of the struggle in terms of my relationship with food. So, but yeah, I appreciate you guys giving the space and the platform for me to be able to talk about it. Obviously, I share this part of my journey and this part of my experience. I didn't have any intentions of coming on and like expressing that. Like that wasn't the intention of this podcast, but the platform's important, and having the platform to be able to do that's really critical. So I appreciate you guys for doing that and being open to that discussion. Because these are the discussions that improve our community and make our community more accessible to others, which is what we're trying to do. We want more people to be involved, to experience the joy that we get to experience with running. And the more that we can relate to others and have these kind of conversations will open doors for that. So it's your fault, David.
Well, most importantly, I do want to say, like, thank you for what you have brought. You've helped develop the camaraderie and the compassion, and you bring passion to East Coast Adventures with what you're doing. And you're right. The team has been outstanding, and the camaraderie that we see there and we feel there. And it's like when people are going to races, the other parts of the team is going to crew them and to take care of them and to help them and to help the team be successful. And you're a huge part of that. And like, just, we want to say thank you so much. And you're a big reason that, East Coast Adventures is what it is. I mean, we are a family, and the bigger we grow and the more people we reach and the more people that we can get involved, we want that feeling to continue to expand and grow, and for people to always feel welcome. And that's really what this is all about. It's about opening that door for anybody in this community to come join us, come run with us, come crew with us, do whatever you want to do, but just come join us and you'll feel like you're part of something. And that's truly what we want to build and continue to build. So thank you so much for being a huge part of that, Micah.
That's a pleasure. It really, truly is.
Well, man, thank you so much. We'll leave you alone at the 1 hour and 58 minute mark. So thank you, Micah.
Sounds good.
Thanks too.